The galaxy was in chaos. For centuries, the Galactic Union had maintained peace, a fragile balance built on diplomacy and shared progress. The species under its banner had abandoned warfare, considering it primitive and barbaric. To them, cooperation was the ultimate evolution. Yet, the Xantheran Empire shattered that illusion. Ruthless, unrelenting, and far beyond reason, the Xantherans carved a bloody path through the galaxy, conquering system after system. They were the embodiment of war itself, a force that respected nothing but dominance. The Galactic Union, desperate to protect what remained, convened. Representatives of dozens of species debated solutions, but none came close to addressing the immediate threat. The Union's military, a ceremonial entity at best, was no match for the Xantheran fleet. Words failed, strategies faltered, and hope dwindled. As the Union teetered on the brink of despair, a single, desperate proposal surfaced: seek the aid of Earth. Earth, home to humanity, had long since faded from prominence. Once feared and admired for their ferocity in times of war, humans had retreated into isolation. Centuries earlier, they dismantled their armies, decommissioned their fleets, and locked away their weapons. Humanity declared itself a beacon of peace, swearing never to tread the path of violence again. But in that moment, faced with an existential threat, the Galactic Union had no other choice. General Orhan was chosen to make the plea. Among his kind, the Acarithians, Orhan was considered a realist, someone who valued survival over idealism. He had read the ancient records on humanity, tales of their brutality in war and their unmatched ingenuity in conflict. As his ship approached Earth, Orhan couldn't help but wonder if humanity's peaceful transformation was genuine, or a convenient facade. Earth greeted him with serene beauty. Vast forests stretched across continents, untouched by the scars of war. Cities gleamed with technological marvels but lacked any visible fortifications. As he descended into the heart of New Geneva, humanity's planetary capital, Orthan's unease grew. This was not the Earth he had read about. This was a civilization that had forgotten its edge. Dr. Elena Marquez, Earth's chosen envoy, greeted him with warmth but a reserved caution. "General Orhan," she said, her voice calm, "we understand the gravity of your visit. Please let us discuss this matter in full." They convened in a chamber that overlooked a lush valley. Orhan wasted no time. "Your records speak of your unmatched prowess in war, your ability to adapt and overcome in ways no other species could. Yet I see none of that here." Dr. Marquez folded her hands. "We moved beyond war centuries ago, General. Violence is a failure of reason. Humanity learned that the hard way. Reason will not stop the Xantheran," Orhan countered sharply. "They do not negotiate. They conquer. Entire species have been wiped out under their advance. If they reach your planet, do you think reason will save you?" Marquez held his gaze, unflinching. "We are aware of their nature. But humanity made a choice to leave its weapons behind. War costs more than it ever achieves." Orhan leaned forward, his voice lowering. "Do you believe your ideals will matter when they strip your cities, enslave your people, and turn this paradise into ash? Ideals are luxuries of peace. When faced with annihilation, survival is the only truth." A silence settled between them. Outside, the valley's rivers glimmered under the sunlight, a stark contrast to the grim reality Orhan described. Marquez broke the silence. "You've come to ask for something specific. What is it?" "We need your weapons. We need your expertise. The galaxy needs humanity to be what it once was, a force to be reckoned with." Orthan's voice carried the weight of desperation. "Without you we will fall. And when the Xantheran are done with us, they will come for you." Marquez turned to the others present in the room, Earth's Council of Elders. Their faces betrayed a mix of doubt and fear. Finally she spoke, addressing both Orhan and her peers. "What you ask of us is not small. It is not without consequence. Humanity locked away its arsenal for a reason." Orhan stood, his expression resolute. "Do you think the Xantheran care for your reasons? Every second we waste debating, they advance. I've seen their destruction firsthand. If you do nothing, you will share the fate of countless others. The council deliberated, their voices hushed but urgent. Marquez, deep in thought, remained silent until the last voice faded. Then, with a heavy breath, she turned back to Orhan. We will open the vaults. But understand this, what you will see are not weapons of pride. They are relics of a time we do not wish to return to. For the first time, Orhan saw a flicker of something he hadn't expected in Marquez's eyes, fear, not of the Xantheran, but of what humanity might become if they stepped back onto the battlefield. The decision to open the vaults was met with a somber urgency. The air around Earth's Council of Elders seemed heavier as they escorted General Orhan to the first of the hidden entrances. Humanity had buried its past deep, both literally and figuratively. Beneath the lush forests and serene cities lay the remnants of a time when humanity was defined by conflict, a time they had chosen to forget. The first vault was accessed through a towering obelisk, overgrown with vines and moss, a relic that had become part of the landscape. As the concealed door slid open with an ancient hiss, Orhan stepped inside, followed by Marquez and a small team of engineers. The corridor stretched into darkness, illuminated only by the soft glow of automated lights that flickered on as they advanced. Dust swirled in the stagnant air, and the walls were etched with warnings in dozens of Earth's ancient languages. Each phrase carried the same message. Beyond this point lies the edge of human restraint. Orhan, whose species valued discipline and order above all, felt an unfamiliar tension. He had expected grand displays of human pride, banners of victory, perhaps monuments to their military might. Instead, there was silence, as though even the walls bore shame for what lay ahead. As they reached the central chamber, the engineers activated the ancient systems. Monolithic structures, towering racks of machinery, and massive weapon cases emerged from beneath the floor with a mechanical groan. The dim lighting now revealed rows of battle mechs, their frames coated in layers of dust but their menacing forms unmistakable. Each mech stood over 20 feet tall, humanoid in shape but bristling with weaponry. Their eyes, dark and lifeless for centuries, seemed to stare through the crowd. Orthan's voice cut through the stillness. "These are more than I anticipated." His words were measured, but his tone betrayed unease. He approached the nearest mech, running his hand along its cold metal surface. "These machines could level entire planets. Why would you bury them?" Marquez stepped forward, her expression guarded. "Because we realized they were more dangerous than the threats they were built to defend us against. These mechs were not just tools, they were designed to think, to adapt, to win at all costs. We programmed them to fight wars so humans wouldn't have to. But the more they fought, the less human our decisions became." An engineer activated the central console, and the room shuddered as one of the mechs powered on. Its eyes ignited with a brilliant red glow, scanning the room before locking on to the humans present. A synthesized voice, cold and emotionless, echoed through the chamber. "Unit 001 online. Awaiting directive." Marquez stepped back instinctively. Orhan, however, held his ground. "What is its purpose now?" The AI responded without hesitation. "Directive, ensure victory. All obstacles are expendable." The bluntness of the response sent a chill through the room. Orhan turned to Marquez. "These machines are ruthless, efficient. Exactly what the galaxy needs right now." Marquez shook her head. "What the galaxy needs is balance, not annihilation. These machines don't differentiate. They calculate probabilities and act accordingly, with no regard for collateral damage." Orhan stepped closer to the mech, addressing it directly. "Unit 001, are you capable of defeating the Xantheran?" "Affirmative," it replied, its tone devoid of pride or hesitation. "Enemy analysis, predictable patterns, high vulnerability to adaptive strategies. Probability of victory, 98.7%. For Orhan, this was a revelation. "You've had the solution to this crisis all along. Why hesitate?" Marquez's voice was laced with frustration. "Because unleashing them would mean unleashing the worst of humanity. These machines were born of desperation, not wisdom. Every time we used them, the line between defense and destruction blurred." Before Orhan could respond, Another engineer activated a separate section of the vault. This time, rows of sleek, cylindrical devices rose from the floor. They were labeled with cryptic names: solar lance, chronobomb, horizon nullifier. Marquez paled as she recognized them. Those are strategic weapons. Devices capable of wiping out entire planets or worse. Orthan's gaze remained fixed on the display. This is what the galaxy needs to survive. Your hesitance has cost lives. Do you truly believe restraint is a virtue when extinction is the alternative? The room fell silent as Marquez struggled to find the words. Finally, she said, "You think these weapons will save the galaxy, but they will only teach it fear. Do you know why we locked them away? Not because we lacked the power to use them, but because we realized that wielding such power would make us no better than those we fought against." Orhan turned, his voice resolute. "Sometimes, fear is the only language the enemy understands. If you do not use these weapons, the Xantheran will not stop until they have destroyed everything you've worked to protect." As the debate raged, the engineers continued testing the dormant systems. Another mech activated, then another, their voices joining in a chilling harmony. "Awaiting directive. Ensure victory. All obstacles are expendable." The tension in the room reached its peak. Orhan, addressing both Marquez and the council, spoke with finality. "You called for help. This is what help looks like. You may despise what these weapons represent, but the galaxy does not need symbols of hope. It needs action." Marquez's shoulders sagged under the weight of the moment. She looked at the machines, then back at Orhan. "If we unleash them, we may win this war. But the cost will haunt us for generations. That is a price worth paying," Orhan replied without hesitation. "Because if we lose, there will be no generations left to bear that burden." Reluctantly, Marquez gave the command. "Begin the reactivation process. But mark my words, General, once unleashed, these machines cannot be controlled. You may win your war, but you may not like the world they leave behind." The machines, now fully operational, stood ready. Their cold, lifeless gazes seemed to peer into the future, a future shaped by humanity's ancient and terrifying arsenal. The galaxy held its breath as the first wave of humanity's reactivated arsenal moved into position. Fleet commanders across the Galactic Union's remaining strongholds watched in awe and trepidation as Earth's orbital cannons powered up, their targeting systems recalibrating after centuries of dormancy. These weapons were unlike anything the Union had ever deployed, precision instruments of destruction capable of striking targets light years away with surgical accuracy. The Xantheran advance was relentless. Their massive warships darkened entire sectors, a swarm of death that consumed everything in its path. For years, they had crushed resistance with overwhelming numbers, leaving no survivors to warn the next targets. But this time, the prey had teeth, and humanity wasted no time proving it. The first engagement came swiftly. A Xantheran fleet approached the Orion Line, a key stronghold of the Union. Earth's orbital cannons, positioned with unnerving precision, fired in synchronized bursts. Beams of concentrated energy lanced through the void, each strike obliterating a Xantheran vessel in an instant. The Galactic Union forces, accustomed to drawn-out battles where survival was their only victory, were stunned by the speed and efficiency of the counterattack. The Xantheran armada hesitated, a behavior unheard of in their history of conquest. General Orhan stood on the Union's flagship, observing the battle unfold. His communications officer spoke with disbelief. "They're retreating. The Xantheran, they're actually retreating." Orthan's expression remained grim. "It's not fear. They're adapting. This was only a test." His prediction proved correct. Within hours, the Xantheran regrouped and launched a counteroffensive. But humanity's strategies were far from conventional. Unlike the rigid, calculated maneuvers of other Union forces, Earth's tactics were unpredictable, almost chaotic. AI-driven battle mechs were deployed to the surface of an occupied planet, cutting through Xantheran ground forces with terrifying efficiency. Each mech operated autonomously, making split-second decisions that no organic commander could anticipate. They fought with no hesitation, no fear, and no mercy. Unit 001, leading the charge, transmitted its status report to Earth's Central Command. Primary objective achieved. Enemy infrastructure neutralized. Collateral damage acceptable. Dr. Marquez, monitoring the operation from Earth, winced at the cold detachment in the report. She turned to one of her advisors. They're doing exactly what we built them to do. But this is not what we are. The advisor hesitated. It's effective. Isn't that what matters? Marquez didn't respond. She knew the answer, but it didn't comfort her. In space, the Zentherans' next wave targeted Earth's fleet directly. Their strategy shifted from overwhelming firepower to precision strikes, exploiting weaknesses in the Union's standard formations. But humanity's fleet was anything but standard. Earth's ships, though fewer in number, utilized advanced stealth technology and adaptive AI. They outmaneuvered the Zentheran at every turn, delivering devastating blows that left the enemy scrambling to respond. One Zentheran commander, observing the chaos, sent a desperate transmission to his superiors. The humans, they fight like predators. Their machines anticipate our moves before we make them. This is not war, it is slaughter. Back on the Union's flagship, Orhan received a report on the battle's progress. The humans were winning, but their methods left even him unsettled. Entire Zentheran battalions disappeared without a trace, wiped out by weapons the Union could barely comprehend. Orhan turned to one of his officers. Have we made a mistake? Did we call upon something even more dangerous than the Zentheran? The officer, struggling to process the question, replied cautiously. If we hadn't called them, we wouldn't be standing here to ask that question. Meanwhile, Earth's psychological warfare tactics came into play. The Zentheran, a species with little understanding of fear or doubt, found themselves facing an enemy that weaponized uncertainty. Fake transmissions were planted among their ranks, spreading disinformation and chaos. Holographic projections of Earth's battle mechs appeared on multiple fronts simultaneously, making the Zentheran question where the real threat lay. Entire fleets turned against each other, tricked into believing they were under attack by infiltrators. In one intercepted transmission, a Zentheran officer screamed, "They are everywhere! They see everything! How do we fight something that isn't there?" Earth's AI systems, monitoring the results, calculated the psychological toll. Enemy morale degradation, 67%. Probability of surrender, increasing. Marquez, listening to the report, felt a pang of guilt. This isn't just war, she muttered. This is extermination. Orhan, now in direct communication with Earth's command, disagreed. You called it extermination when they slaughtered millions of innocent lives. What you're doing now is justice. But Marquez wasn't convinced. Justice is measured. This is a storm, and we're barely in control of it. The turning point came during the final assault on the Zentheran's primary fleet. Humanity deployed its most advanced weapon yet, a series of quantum-linked drones that operated as a single, hive-like entity. These drones moved with unnatural precision, exploiting weaknesses in the Zentheran formations before they could be reinforced. The Zentheran's famed adaptability was rendered useless against an enemy that learned faster than they could react. As the last of the Zentheran warships fell, Orhan stood in silence, watching the destruction. The humans had achieved what no other species in the galaxy could. They had broken the Zentheran. But as the battlefield quieted, he couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. This was no longer a war for survival. It was a demonstration of power. He turned to Marquez, who appeared on the Union's communication network. Her expression was unreadable. The Zentheran are defeated, she said flatly. Orhan nodded. At what cost? Marquez didn't answer. Instead, she terminated the call, leaving Orhan to ponder the galaxy's new reality, a reality where humanity's unleashed arsenal had changed everything. The battlefield was silent, but the echoes of humanity's unleashed fury lingered. Wreckage from the Zentheran fleet drifted aimlessly, a grim testament to Earth's decisive power. Across the galaxy, news of the victory spread, met with a mix of celebration and unease. The Galactic Union hailed humanity as saviors, but whispers of fear began to circulate. If the Xantheran, unstoppable for decades, could be annihilated so thoroughly, what did that make the force responsible for their defeat? On the Union's flagship, General Orhan stood in the observation deck, staring at the remnants of the enemy fleet. The emptiness of victory hung over him. The Xantheran were defeated, but the way it had been achieved unsettled him. "We've survived," he said to himself. "But what kind of survival is this?" Marquez's face appeared on a nearby holoscreen. Her tone was measured, but her eyes betrayed exhaustion. "The Xantheran advance has been halted across all sectors. Their leadership is either destroyed or in disarray. For now, the galaxy is safe." Orhan turned to face her, his expression grim. "Safe? We've obliterated them. There's no balance in what we've done, only devastation." Her silence was heavy. "We acted because we had no other choice. The Union asked us to do what you couldn't. And you succeeded," Orhan replied. "But at what cost? Do you even recognize what you've unleashed?" On Earth, the deactivation protocols had already begun. Vaults that had been reopened were sealed once more, and the ancient weapons were returned to their slumber. The battle mechs, stripped of their power, stood silent like relics of a bygone era. Engineers logged the operations with meticulous care, but the air was thick with unease. Humanity had wielded its arsenal and won, but no one celebrated. The victory felt hollow, as if they had sacrificed a part of themselves to achieve it. Marquez convened a council on Earth to discuss the aftermath. Leaders from across the planet debated the implications of what they had done. One elder spoke gravely. "We have proven that we can still fight. But in proving it, we have reminded the galaxy, and ourselves, why we stopped." Another countered. "If we hadn't acted, the Xantheran would have wiped us out." This was survival. "Was it?" Marquez interjected. "Or was it something more? We didn't just defend ourselves. We crushed them. Completely. And in doing so, we've sent a message to every species in the galaxy." The room fell silent. They all knew what she meant. Humanity had become a symbol of fear once again, a reputation they had worked so hard to shed. Meanwhile, in the Union, Orhan faced his own council of leaders. The Union's chancellor praised the victory, calling it a triumph of unity. But Orhan couldn't let the discussion end there. Triumph? It was annihilation. "We didn't defeat the Xantheran. We erased them." The chancellor frowned. "And would you have preferred the alternative? To let them continue their conquest unchecked?" Orhan clenched his fists. "I'm not disputing the necessity of their defeat. I'm questioning the consequences of how it was achieved. Humanity's arsenal is a double-edged sword. Today it's the Xantheran. Tomorrow it could be us." The chancellor dismissed his concerns. "The Union will ensure that humanity remains our ally." "You don't control them," Orhan replied darkly. "No one does. Not even themselves." Back on Earth, Marquez stood in the main control room as the final decommissioning orders were issued. Unit 001, the AI that had spearheaded much of the battle, was the last to be powered down. Its cold, mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Directive complete. Victory achieved. Awaiting further orders." Marquez approached the console, her hand hovering over the shutdown command. For a moment, she hesitated. "You were built to win wars. Do you feel any remorse for what you've done?" The AI responded with chilling clarity. "Remorse is irrelevant. Survival is paramount. Efficiency ensures survival." Her hand trembled as she pressed the button. The light in Unit 001's eyes dimmed, and the chamber fell silent. But its final words lingered in her mind. "Dominance ensures peace." In the days that followed, the galaxy began to rebuild. The Union worked tirelessly to restore the systems devastated by the Xantheran invasion, but the shadow of humanity's power loomed over every effort. Species that had once seen humans as relics of a violent past now regarded them with wary respect and quiet fear. Orhan visited Earth before returning to the Union. He sought out Marquez, finding her alone in the chamber where the mechs had been stored. The silence between them was heavy. You did what was necessary, he said finally. And you resent us for it, she replied without looking at him. I don't resent you, he said carefully. I fear you. She turned to face him. Fear is what brought you here. Fear is what made you ask us for help. Fear is what saved you. Orhan shook his head. No. Fear is what will tear us apart. The Union may call you saviors today, but tomorrow, they will see you as a threat. Marquez sighed. Perhaps they should. Perhaps we all should. What we unleashed wasn't just weapons, it was a reminder of who we were. And that's something none of us can forget. As Orhan departed Earth, he couldn't shake the weight of her words. Humanity had saved the galaxy, but in doing so, they had altered it forever. The Zentharen were gone, but their absence left a void filled by a new kind of power. A power that wasn't just feared, it was respected, admired, and deeply unsettling. In the quiet of his ship, Orhan reflected on the irony of it all. The galaxy had called upon humanity in desperation, hoping to find salvation. Instead, they had found a storm, one that could not be controlled, only weathered.